Shanks the Untouchable, among all the characters in One Piece, Shanks remains the most enigmatic. He is a Yonko, but he avoids wars. He is a pirate, but he is respected even by the Navy. He has connections to Gorosei, but protects Luffy, the bearer, of the greatest threat to the world government. How is it possible for a character to represent so many paradoxes? The answer may lie in something much bigger. Not in a power plan, but on a plan of global disruption. What if Shanks always knew what he was doing? What if the real reason for delivering Nika's fruit to Fate was part of an even deeper plan? The fruit that wasn't meant to be. The Hito Hito. No Mi fruit, model Nika, as revealed in Egghead, it's not a Gomu Gomu. She is a mythical Zoan, one of the most dangerous for the world government. It was kept in absolute secrecy for centuries. Transported, under special escort by Cypher Paul, and mysteriously stolen by Shanks. But here's the gist of the theory. Shanks didn't just steal the fruit, he let her be eaten by Luffy. On purpose. He knew that that fruit could not be given to just anyone. Someone with the right spirit was needed. With the right laugh, with the right will. Someone with the D. The D. The catalysts of the world. The will of D is, from the beginning, of the work, the greatest unrevealed mystery. All who bear this name have defied authority. All of them, without exception, caused imbalances. Gold D. Roger started the pirate era. Monkey D. Dragon has declared war on the world. Port Gas. D. Ace made the government move forces to stop him. Marshal D. Teach killed a Whitebeard commander and forced Marineford. And Monkey D. Luffy is shaping the new world. The D is, essentially, the storm. The change that the ancient world tries to contain. And Shanks, who was standing next to Roger, the greatest wielder of the D, understood that. And more than that, understood that the storm cannot be stopped. She needs to be guided. The encounter with Gorosei, one of the most enigmatic moments in the manga, was when Shanks entered Mary Jawa's to speak with the five elders, and he said, "I came to talk to you about a certain pirate." This moment divided the community. Some thought it was about Teach, others about Luffy. But what if it's about both? And if Shanks, far from snitching, was giving time to the world government, warning that the storm was coming? Because he knew what was about to awaken. Luffy. The premeditated choice. We return to Luffy as a child, a rebellious boy with an absolute spirit of freedom, thirsty for adventure, with empathy for others, with something different in his eyes. Shanks watched him, protected him. He had Roger's hat on, and he carried the most dangerous fruit in the world. The meeting of the two was not a coincidence. This theory suggests that Shanks actively sought an heir to D, someone who carried the same glow that Roger had, and by leaving the fruit within Luffy's reach. By not trying to prevent, Shanks started the Nika's second era, and with it, the downfall of the world government, Teach, the D that cannot be erased. Here comes the most surprising element of the theory. Marshal D. Teach, the biggest antagonist of the current work. The man who stole fruit, killed companions, and manipulated wars. A D who seems to invert the essence of freedom, seeking absolute power. So why didn't Shanks ever eliminate him? Shanks himself, during the meeting with Whitebeard, warns about Teach. It's not just his strength, it's what he represents. If Shanks sees him as a threat, why leave him alive? The answer is frightening, because he is part of the plan. What if Shanks' real plan is to let the DS free to clash with each other, creating the storm that will shake the Red Line, topple the government, and bring about the new world, be it by Luffy's light or by the darkness of Teach? The current era will not survive the fury of the D, the heir of light, the heir of darkness in. Part 1 of this theory, we saw that Shanks, by allowing Luffy to eat the Nika fruit, ushered in a new era, an era in which the DS would once again be the center of the world. But there is something even deeper. Shanks didn't just free the sun god Nika, he too preserved the darkness. By sparing Blackbeard, even knowing the risk, Shanks allowed two polar opposites of D, Luffy and Teach, survive and grow until they reach the pinnacle of power. Duas de two destinations, two instruments of the same destruction. This theory proposes that the world needs the clash between them, not to decide who is right, but so that, in the process, the current system is broken. Shanks is not trying to avoid war. Shanks is driving to war, the premeditated collapse. The world government doesn't fear the name D for nothing. The records of the Void Century and the poneglyphs indicate that an ancient, powerful civilization was erased by the alliance of the 20 kingdoms, the predecessors of the current Tenryubito. This civilization may have been guided by Joy Boy, and Joy Boy, according to the mythology of the mythical Zoans, is the bearer of the Nika no Mi, the warrior of liberation, logo, when Luffy awakened his fruit. The government realized that the cycle was repeating itself, but it wasn't the only cycle. Teach, as a non-standard D, is the anomaly that corrupts everything the world government has tried to keep stable. Shanks. Shanks knew this. That's why he meets with the Gorosei, not to ask for protection, but perhaps to say, "You have little time. The DS have already started moving, and you won't be able to stop them." Shanks. The keeper of the scales. Instead of being a straight player, Shanks behaves like the guardian of the scales. Think about his track record. He never starts wars. Interrupted the confrontation between Kaido and Whitebeard. Prevented the war from continuing in Marineford. He has high-ranking influence, but he does not act like a king. Shanks always positions himself between the extremes, balancing the forces. But now, he is releasing the extremes, because maybe he understands that the world needs to break to be redone, and this can only happen when the light and darkness of the D collide with everything, the prophecy of the D and the end of the world. This theory is also based on the idea that D are not random individuals. They are descendants of a lineage that was erased from history, a free, rebellious people at odds with the imposed order. Joy Boy may have been the last leader of these people. A Luffy. Oh Novo. But every leader needs a catalyst, and Teach, vile as he is this catalyst. Blackbeard forces Luffy to grow up, overcoming limits, understanding the true responsibility of your freedom, and by keeping Teach alive, Shanks is ensuring that this process happens, not out of malice, but why without conflict? There is no liberation. The final war in Shanks' role, in the final moments of the work, when the final war against the world government takes place, the world will need one last push. Shanks could die, or you can sacrifice yourself. But most likely it is that he acts as the final messenger, the one who, at the right moment, reveals the whole truth. The truth about Nika Fruit, the truth about the D, the truth about the lost century, and the truth about your role. Prepare the world for the end of the current era. Maybe he was never the hero, but it was always the trigger of the revolution, the last will in the end. What defines Oda's work is not just battles, powers, or alliances, it is the willing, the will of D, the will to live free, laughing, to challenge, to protect. Shanks understood that this desire cannot be controlled, she can only be respected when delivering the fruit to Luffy, by saving Teach, by not becoming Pirate King, even though he had the power to do so. Shanks accepted his role. He is neither the sun nor the shadow, and the wind that blows so that the storm begins. A man's choice. The greatest irony of One Piece. Maybe this: the man who saved the world was the one who released its two greatest dangers, and this man's name is Shanks, the guardian of the era, the architect of the revolution, the silent executor of D's will. The strange calm. After Elbaf. After the intense saga in Elbaf, where Luffy and his crew allied with the giants to stop a new threat from the world government, something unusual began to happen. The world seemed too calm. No attack from the Navy. No movement from Blackbeard. Not even Cypher Paul agents were on the lookout. The most attentive fans know, in One Piece, calm means preparation, and often silence comes before tragedy. Hashisu, the Cursed Island. In old newspapers from the world of One Piece, the name Hashisu appears discreetly on nautical maps of the Grand Line. It is a forgotten island, covered in fog and historically used as an escape route by pirates in ancient times. In recent years, its commercial activity has been zero, and the island has come to be considered a dead zone. So why would Garp have ended up in Hashisu? Some believe that after the events of Hachinosu, where Garp faced Blackbeard's gang, to save Kobe, the marine hero continued to pursue the ramifications of the Teach Empire. Hashisu, in this context, would make sense as clandestine strategic point. Perhaps an auxiliary base for Van Augur or Shiryu. But this is where the theory begins to take shape. There is no confirmation that Garp actually went there. The letter that changed everything. The eye. Trigger comes when, in the midst of the calm after Elbaf, Luffy receives a letter. But this letter does not come from the Navy. It doesn't come through Dragon, nor through Sabo, and, even stranger, it doesn't come with a signature. She just says, Garp was killed in Hashisu. The world will soon know. Prepare yourself. This kind of message would be easily dismissed by someone rational. But Luffy is different. He's instinctive, emotional. And Garp is all that remains of his childhood. Of what was his family. He's the one who, even in a strict way, took care of him, Ace and Sabo. He's the one who smiled before Marineford collapsed. And if there's one thing One Piece has shown us, it's that Luffy can handle anything, except losing someone he loves. The psychology of the coup. This is Teach's real weapon. Blackbeard is not just brute strength. He is manipulation. He provoked Ace to get his brother to come after him. He used the Marineford War as a stage to steal Whitebeard's powers. And now, perhaps I'm using fake news as a trap, sending information without evidence but with a strong emotional charge. He may be trying to provoke an explosive and rash reaction from Luffy. And here comes the central point of the theory. What if this whole letter is fake? What if Garp is alive but being used as bait? Teach already knows that facing Luffy head-on is risky. But if you can break your emotional balance, the battle changes completely. Luffy's reaction. Luffy was never a strategist. He doesn't stop to think when someone important is at risk. In Eni's lobby, he faced the world government for Robin. In Impel Down, he broke into the most secure prison in the world for Ace. In Whole Cake, he went to Big Mom for Sanji. And now, with Garp? The most accepted theory is that Luffy, upon receiving the letter, enters an unprecedented state of fury. It's not the same Luffy who smiles. It's not the same as getting excited about adventures. It's a Luffy silent, determined, and willing to break boundaries. A Luffy who, for the first time, can start a war, the Blackbeard standard. But why believe this is a trap? Let's get to the facts. Blackbeard is methodical. He does not act on impulse. He waited for the exact moment to act at Marineford. And he may be doing the same now. Teach's gang is missing. After Hachinosu, there is no major movement recorded. This suggests that they are plotting something in secret. The media is controlled in the world of One Piece. Morgans have been used to manipulate headlines, including by revolutionary and government interests. It is possible that Blackbeard has corrupted this channel or other means of spreading the letter without leaving a trace. Hashisu is off the map. If Garp really is there, why didn't any admiral go after him? Why was only Luffy warned? The Navy's silence may indicate complicity. Or that they don't know the truth either. Narrator pauses, music slightly more intense. The reality is simple. Blackbeard is setting the stage for the greatest showdown of the current era, and if he can make Luffy move out of anger instead of will, can unbalance everything that is to come. The first spark. After reading the letter saying that Garp was killed in Hashisu by Blackbeard's crew, Luffy doesn't say anything for hours. He doesn't eat. He doesn't sleep. He just stares at the sea. And then, for the first time since Marineford, the Straw Hat Captain shows something stronger than sadness. fury. But it's not the common rage. It is not anger against the enemy of the day. It is the fury at the loss of someone who was, in his own way, a father, from someone who, even though he was a representative of the Navy, never stopped protecting him in his own way. Luffy's silence echoes through the crew. Zoro hears. Nami realizes. Sanji looks away. Usopp Trame. They know what's coming. Luffy won't wait for confirmation, it won't plan. He will back an Emperor's rebellion. From this point on, the theory holds that Luffy breaks any neutrality pact with the other Yonko, Shanks, Buggy, and even the Marines. Waited longer before the next conflict. But Luffy is not a politician. He is pure instinct, and now his instinct has been hurt. According to this theoretical line, the Straw Hats sail towards Hashisu even without knowing what they will find. The island, until then forgotten, returns to the center of the world. But this journey is not just physical, it's emotional. For the first time since Marineford, Luffy isn't fighting for a dream. He is fighting for revenge, the world's reaction. The sudden movement of a Sea Emperor does not go unnoticed. The Navy panics. Sakazuki immediately summons admirals to contain the possible collision between Luffy and Teach. Kizaru hesitates. He already felt Luffy's power in Egghead. Smoker, now more experienced, realizes that stopping Luffy it's impossible. Cypher Paul goes silent. No one wants to make a strategic mistake in the face of a possible confrontation between two of the greatest pirates alive. Shanks observes, he already knew something like this would happen. After all, the flame that Luffy carries is uncontrollable. But the most interesting? Shanks does not move, as if he knew that this fight needs to happen. And Blackbeard? No response, no appearance, no warning, silence. And that's where the theory gains weight. Blackbeard's silence is confirmation that everything was planned. The gear. We've never seen, and then comes the most debated question in this theoretical line. Will this be the battle that awakens Luffy's true limit? During the Egghead arc, we saw Gear 5, the form that reflects the pure spirit of freedom, with the properties of a god molding reality as if it were rubber. But Gear 5 is driven by joy, creativity, impulse. What if Luffy goes into battle for hatred? Does Nika's power work the same way? Theories suggest yes, but with consequences. Luffy, in a state of rage, can access Nika's destructive side, the sun of rebellion, but without the balance of laughter. It would be an unstable, unpredictable form. Some fans call it Gear 5, Wrath form of fury, an intense manifestation of the will of D capable of shaking the climate, distorting the sea, and breaking the body's own physical limits, but at the same time, dangerous. Then, the E. More Luffy fights with hatred, the further he becomes from his true essence. The truth begins to leak out. As the war begins to take shape, new information reaches Robin through the revolution. Garp wasn't killed. He's alive, but he's missing. Sabo confirms the former. Vice Admiral may be held captive or lost, but the letter sent to Luffy, it's a trap. Unfortunately, it is too late. Luffy has already left. The crew has already sworn to fight. The route is already set, and now the whole world will see the collision between the man who carries the will of God and the man who distorts that same will to dominate chaos. The trigger of the Pirate War. If this theory is confirmed, this conflict in Hashisu could be what Marineford went to Roger, a point of no return. The Yonko will be on the move. The revolutionaries may intervene. The Navy will be forced to choose between neutrality or destruction. And the people of the world will realize that the reign of the world government is numbered. Because when a D gets angry, the world trembles, the manipulated will. If Blackbeard really did orchestrate fake news about Garp, he didn't do it just out of cruelty. He did it because he knows that messing with Luffy emotionally is the only way to make him act outside of his instinct for freedom. But here's the bottom line on this theory. Even in the face of manipulation, even in the face of anger, Luffy is still Luffy. And when the truth comes out, when he discovers that he was deceived, that his anger caused deaths, that the world went to war over a lie, he will never be the same. He will be stronger, more mature, more dangerous. And this time, he will not forgive. Continues. What did you think of this theory? Click the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. Until the next video. Bye.